here that what you're getting with Judy, you're not getting anywhere else, because she's teaching the system dynamics piece. You can do constellation and organizational constellations following the energy. And if you've got an open-minded organization, you're probably doing quite well, but they will invite you in. Judy says, let's go in, let's take a look at the patterns that are happening. And she gives you the language, if you want to hear it, about how organizations can accept what we're doing.
I think what they've discovered, or are busy discovering, there are a lot of articles about this, is that the new frontier really is, how do we take the mind, how do we take the implicit knowledge that we've got, and how do we work those two together to create visionary leaders rather than having burnt out brittle leaders. So you're going to see me talk a lot about organizational and leaders and leadership. The other thing to notice is that this is also really effective for one-on-one executive coaching, and I do a lot of that. And you also discover very quickly that A, you can't leave your family at home, and B, you need to know your leaders' family dynamics, because otherwise you're really working with them from a very narrow perspective. When you have a leader who says, I've hit a brick wall, to just go look in the organization is not going to serve your client. You need for your client to be able to have a look at, why is this hitting me now? Where does it come from? Which family perspective has it come from? So highly effective to have both the family and the organizational. For a long time it was traditionally thought that you would separate family and separate organizational. Not so much. Now they really are beginning to understand that you need a fusionist approach. And you've still got a lot of the diehards out there who are going to separate it. And eventually they're going to find that if they go straight organizational, they will anyway flip back at some point into the family dynamic, because most things begin there. Yes?
I really can agree totally with you. How do you approach those individuals? And I'm going to categorize it a little bit. So
sure.
There's one male here. Men have a tendency to box things, right? More than women, I feel anyway. But there are women that do that as well. But how do you break through that box that people don't even see that their family influences their lives?
Actually, it may surprise you, but 90% of my clients, and they are the top C-suite executives, are male. And they do extremely well with it. What I found is, if you use the logical approach, in fact in business you want to use a logical approach, because otherwise it sounds too out there for people. But when I can logically explain what I'm doing, and they can logically identify with it, then you'll get them to play with you all day long. And so really what it is it's respecting the system you go into, it's learning that system's language, and then it's learning to flow within that. And of course the other piece that is intriguing for many is they are very good with gut instinct. They're very good, they just don't always know that they're using it. So when you can show them exactly how it works and lay down the neural pathways and show them how you're doing that, it becomes very much easier for them to buy into and become part of it. But our best advocates are the men. They are great advocates. What I want to do is language this very much in a business language, because otherwise you're going to switch people off. And this is a business. But if you look at those two, audience is the framework. Most of us need a framework before we can start interacting in communio, which is the processes that happen. If you watch most people, they'll sit back like this until they've figured out what the rules are, and you can see it in the body, they'll go, okay, I'm in. And then they're in. Until that happens, you're drinking through a fire hydrant in stages. Most people who begin to do this work walk out after the first day and go, I'm never going to get it, I'm not doing this, I'm not coming back, and then are surprised to find themselves back in the room. It's very normal. You're going to get a ton of information, but you'll find that it begins to make sense as we work with the different orders, and every time we do a piece of work, I'll ask you, which one of those is it? What are we doing? We're languaging this so that any one of you can take this into an organization and work with it. You're going to find that your own organizational issues will come up, and probably a lot of your own personal issues. We will work with some of those as well. We may not work with all of them. Also bear in mind, if we do a piece of work, if you pay attention, you will get something from that piece of work. We've always said, if you've got 20 people, important pieces to know. If you want international certification, it's now required that you will attend all the days of all the modules. That carries international certification. If you don't, you have to talk to me about that, and there has to be a way to make it up. Because if you don't, you cannot carry that international certification. What does international certification give you? It gives you permission to be able to facilitate. What does it really give you? It gives you permission to start facilitating and teaching yourself more about this work. Because you can learn everything you want, you can do all of the theory, but until you walk in and start working with it, you're not going to grasp what you're doing fully. So people like to sit and watch, and then maybe my invitation to you is don't do that. The minute you've completed a module here, find a way to take what you've done, go back and introduce it into the workplace. It doesn't matter how gently. I have somebody in Houston who did the first module, went back and said, you won't believe it. I used sticky notes and I had everybody play. That's all he did. He didn't need to dissect it for them. He didn't need to understand it and make sense of it. It started a conversation. If you can use it to start a conversation, you're beginning to teach yourself the dynamics of what happens in this work. What is a constellation? Sounds very airy-fairy. You can thank Bert Hellinger for that. As Jan Jacob said, the man certainly knows how to use words that are going to be difficult. But the real meaning in the scientific community, or in this community, is it is a grouping of elements within a home system. So in family systems, it will be family members, and in organizations, it will be a ton of things. The organizational staff members, the vendors, the clients. There are many members of this that form a constellation. So it is an arrangement, and it is an ever-expanding and evolving arrangement, and it explores the relationship between all the elements. Got it? Good. So if you're wanting certification in this work, and by the way, each module is a standalone module, but if you're wanting certification, you would need to complete all. Why would you go and do family dynamics as well? Because if you're going to work with leaders and organizations, at some point you will bump into personal dynamics. You need to be able to identify them, and you need to be able to say, stop. We're heading towards personal dynamics. I can work that piece with you later, but my mandate right now is to work this piece with the organization. And often we'll do what I call a drop and move. You know what? When I see an organization like this, often what I might find is that one or more of the leaders have complicated family dynamics that have contributed to this, and then move on. And a good percentage of the time you'll find that the leaders come and say, I need to talk to you. Your customer can also be siblings or parents. Have you ever met, do you perhaps understand the idea of saying, I do everything for them and they're still not satisfied?
No, I do. It's sliding with me.
Absolutely, completely foreign, right? Yeah. When you've got that happening, you want to look at how does that show up for me at work? I feel completely invisible and undervalued, but I'm carrying the whole department. Yeah. And my customers, they know they can come to me because I'll take care of them like nobody else will. Just like I do my family. Yeah. So really watch for that. See, where do you bump? Where do you feel too used? Where do you feel limited? Where do you get angry? Where do you start to feel those things that really push your buttons? Have a look at where they come from first. So thank you for that.
I find that since I've started doing that, so someone pisses me off at work, I sit there and go, okay, so what is it about this? The next day they can do the same thing and it doesn't bother me anywhere as much.
Why? Because what are they? They are a place marker for the original, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really important to to know that. You know, sometimes you'll walk in and somebody says, I'm not speaking to her. I can't stand that kind of person. Really have a look at who's the original of that kind of person. Because the original is the one that this person is representing. In systems, we actually pretty much know where things belong until we start to go out of order. This teaches you to begin grounding yourself in the idea that yes, I am closer to something and I actually get it here, it's not just here. Often this is quicker than this is. So you learn to use this as an accurate language. Here's the other piece. People will tell you these are the systemic orders, principles. If you find more, add them. This is an evolving process. Do not think that things are written in stone and it has to be that way, because the minute you do, you block out your ability to see what else may evolve. Don't do that. And be unique, because yes, and you touch another point. Each one of you who learns this will take it into your own discipline. For some of you it's straight organizational, for some of you it's as a therapist or a massage therapist. Whatever it is, you add your own voice. If you do it my way, you just failed. You cannot do it my way. I can do it my way. But you can do it your way and add your flavor to it. If you understand your principles and you know what you're doing, you add it to you. You don't add you to it. And that's a good point, because and you know, we're saying men, it's not just men, that's not fair. But many people logically need to understand something before they can participate. And I'll tell you why. If you look at Argans and Communio, those are your two forces in all systems. AGENS and Communio, COMMUNIO. And then we're going to backtrack and introduce ourselves. But if you look at those two, Argans is the framework. Most of us need a framework before we can start interacting in Communio, which is the processes that happen. If you watch most people, they'll sit back like this until they've figured out what the rules are, and you can see it in the body, they'll go, okay, I'm in. And then they're in. Until that happens.
As a weak Carola would say, a little snap for the ego, then we can relax.
Now, in business, of course, we cannot say that. We've got to keep it. But yes. So to remember, and I like this because it helps me when you give me those pieces too. But simply to remember, if you're going into an organization, you've got to be really, really professional so that they understand you. Yeah. But I want that to keep being fed in as well, please.
So you introduced yourself?
No, I'm waiting for you to get here because you come first. So just to notice, in organizations, who comes first? If we're doing a workshop like this, who comes first and why?
The client.
The organizer.
If we're doing a workshop, organizer and nothing else.
Oh, the person who organized, so was always first.
Yes. I'm a guest into the system.
So where are you in this? Oh, here, let me ask the question. So where's Judy in the system?
Sorry, second.
No, she's last one in.
Because we're not organized, all of us to come in, or because she examined everything and
Because she says she's a guest into our system.
So she's the last one, is it?
Are you the last one?
I'm the last.
You're sitting thing.
I hold two positions. I may lead it, but I'm actually last in position because I'm the last one to be introduced into the system.
So anytime you are with the client and the organization, you are the last one.
And from that perspective, if you have a client, I'm the last one, but who comes before my client?
The person that engaged you.
I think so. The
That's my
organization.
client, but who comes before the client?
The founder of
The
the
organization or the family. So the system that's invited comes before I do. So in order, in correct order, it would be your client system, your client, the facilitator.
So the family first.
In family work, it would be the family first, the client, the
So the
facilitator.
organization is the family of the client.
No, the organization of the client. Yeah.
So that's complicated
Company.
more, Judy. It's a family-run business. What's
Yes. Tell me, what's first?
The family of the owner
The family
and then the
The
organization.
family, and if you don't take good care and separate those dynamics out, you're going to get family dynamics crossing straight into organizational dynamics. And that's when you see people saying, we can't work here, because you know what, we're second-class citizens. All of that, we are first-class citizens, but if we say anything, it doesn't hold any weight.
And how do you separate it out?
You actually put into place a number of steps where you have an agreement, you sit with the owner.
You said that our system comes first and then you come in last. Well, I'm only here because of you, so you actually were here for me first, and then I stepped in.
The concept was here first. The concept was here first, the work was here first. But I am the last invitee into that circle.
And I'm invited after you.
Even if you're invited afterwards, or even if you...
So it's not about me, it's about the structure.
It's about
System.
So the person who, like if there's somebody that walks in and just drops in and decided to stay, you would say they're the last one in. No, still Judy's the last one.
And it's very important. Why is it important? Because a consultant needs to understand that. If you're a consultant or if you're a facilitator, that's your job. You are not part of the system, you are a visitor in the system. For that period of time, you become part of the system, but you're actually a visitor, and that's why a consultant is effective. If you become fully part of that system, you're now subject to all of its biases and all of its rules, and you've lost your vision and you're useless to the system.
Okay, now